Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yali Madad to all friends, and thank you for joining us this morning. We will begin with the name of the Imam-of-the-Time, Nur Maulana Shah Rahim al-Hussaini, Hazir Imam. Ya Maulay Mehraban, Ya Maulay Mehraban, Ya Maulay Mehraban, Madad Farma. या मौलाए मेहरबान मदद फरमा मदद फरमा या मौलाए मेहरबान मदद फरमा मदद फरमा नूर मौलाना शाह रहीम अल-हुसैनी हाजिर इमाम या मौलाए मेहरबान तौफीक ताहीद हिम्मत व यारी मौला तौफीक ताहीद हिम्मत व यारी मौला या मौलाए मेहरबान मदद फरमा मदद फरमा. In our tariqah, the Farmans of the Imam and the understanding, recognition of the Imam of the time is the core principle. How are we taking these two subjects together? The recognition of Imam Shah Karim, al-Hussaini, Imam of the time, during the Golden Jubilee, emphasized very much that perhaps my Jamat would recognize me. Perhaps my Jamat would recognize the Imam of the time. Shah Rahim recently in one of his Farmans says, the bayah without the recognition of Imam of the time has no bearing, has no value. Just like that, Farmans of the Imam of the time and Farmans of the Imams you will see different Farmans according to the time and place, and you will also see Farmans which is made by one Imam and carried forward by the other Imam by reinforcing it, and or Farman made by one Imam and the next Imam changes the Farman according to the time and the place. Just an example. This is just an example. Let's say Shah Sultan Muhammad Shah, may our soul be sacrificed to their Imam, had asked the Jamat to move to Africa, whereas when the time came, Shah Karim asked the same Jamat to move away from Africa. The Farmans are according to the time and the place. And that is the necessity of the Imam of the time. Without the Imam, without the current and living Imam, without the current and according to the place and time Faramin, where would we stand? Regardless of what happens in the world, politically or economically, Jamat remains together at one platform because of the Imam of the time. It is all due to the Imam, because when we look at the Imam, we forget we are Pakistani, Indian, Syrian, Afghani, Badakhshani, Sindhi, Kachi, Kathiawari. We forget. And then we forget where we live. Doesn't matter we live in a highly educated, economically secure West world or the third world within the Africa or Asia, regardless. We are all murid of the Imam Zaman, a doctor, an engineer, or a laborer, a taxi driver, or a young kid working at McDonald's. When we come to the Jamaat Khana, we all stand in the same line to pray. We look to the Imam of the time, same way, as we are his spiritual children, and he is our Imam of the time. I have collected few different Faramin from our current age 3 Imams, starting from Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah, Shah Karim, and Shah Rahim Hazar Imam. And we will see what is the common theme in all this Faramin. And you will find the emphasis on the Farman and emphasize on the Imam of the times. And each Imam refers to the future Imam and the past Imam. Because there are Faramin of the past Imam which will remain valid until Hazar Imam say otherwise. And that's the important part. Sometime, and I have seen this in the past, how Jamaat was misguided by saying that if Hazar Imam have not given a farman on such a matter, then we should wait. In other words, they were asked not to go back to the previous Faramin of the Imam of the time. That is not true. Farman remains valid. Even if there is a Farman of Mola Ali 1400 years ago, if that Farman is not replaced by some other Farman, and if that Farman still is relevant to our lifetime, I'll give you an example. How many times Sultan Muhammad Shah, Shah Karim, and Shah Rahim have mentioned intellect and use of intellect? And look at the Mullah Ali's Farman. Intellect is the cornerstone of our tariqah of Islam. And those who use their intellect and those who are with the ilm are much better than those without the ilm. Ilm and intellect goes together. Without the ilm, what would your intellect do? And without the intellect, what ilm would you understand? Farman is the ilm of the Imam-of-the-Time. Meaning, without intellect, you cannot understand the Farman of the Imam-of-the-Time. It's called ilm of the Imam or ilm al-Laduni, the divine ilm, which comes from Imam-e-Zaman. So let's start with some of the Faramin. And remember, it's a 2-day session. We will try to finish as much as we can today, and the rest we will try to finish it tomorrow. We will start with the Hazir Imam's Taknashini Farman on February 11, 2025, last year. It seems like we have our Hazir Imam for lifetime. This Imam is so energetic that within 18 months or less than 18 months, he has given us so much love and so many Faramin that we feel like this Imam has been with us for the lifetime. As Imam says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. My late father was a visionary who looked far ahead, not one generation, not 2 generations, but many generations. He lived as his grandfather did, an extraordinary legacy. So this was my point earlier, that each Imam mentions their previous Imam or their previous Imam all the way back to Mullah Ali. Because when it comes to the Imam and the Nur, is only one Nur and one Imam. It's like a light bulb changing, but the Nur remains the same. History will record some of his many achievements, including the enduring and stable institutions he built during a time of deep changes. He was an innovator and a bridge builder. He had far-reaching impact around the world. The focus of his life's work was the elevation of the Jamat, the people amongst whom the Jamat lives, and humanity at large. He had a boundless love for the Jamat. He reconnected with the large Jamats that in their living memory had never seen their Imam. There has been an enormous number of tributes from current and past political leaders and prominent people from a wide range of fields, from all quarters of the world, acknowledging my father's contributions across many endeavors. This gives us some measure of the impact that he had in his lifetime. Now is the time for us all to reflect on how our 49th Imam touches all our life. This last line, Imam's Farman of the time. Now is the time for us all to reflect on how our 49th Imam touched all our lives. Physically, spiritually, and intellectually. This line tells us, if we understand Imam's Farman, that Imam's Farman are always and always relevant. If there is a Farman of Mullah Ali or any other Imam in the past, like Farmans in Pir Bindia de Jawamardi, Farmans of Imam Jafar Sadiq, Imam Muslim Sibillah, Imam Hassan Ali Shah, Sultan Muhammad Shah, Shah Karim Shah. If those Farmans are available to us, and if they are still relevant to us, and Imam of the time have not override those Farmans, then those Farmans are still valid and deserve our reflection. Inshallah, we understand as a moment the value of the Farmans of the Imam. Imam Aka Sultan Muhammad Shah Salawatullah Alayhi, may our soul be sacrificed to the Imam. In very early on Farmans. So these Farmans are now over 135 year old. But look at how valid these Farmans are. Mullah says, when Mullah Murtaza Ali physically left this world, he entrusted the throne of the Imamat to the Imam-Hussaini. In this way, Imam have appointed their successor one after the other on the throne of Imamat in order to guide the people to the true path of religion. If he were to go on without Imam, if the world were to go on without Imam, Mullah Murtaza Ali would not have appointed his successor in his time. If the book of Quran was sufficient, he would not have appointed his successor and would have ended the Imamat with himself. And Shah Rahim says, my authority comes all the way from the Nabi and Ali. Now you see how relevant these Farmans are and why we should keep this Farman in our mind so we understand the continuation, the chain of light of Imamat and necessity of it. From time to time, as the circumstances changes, some new things come up and fresh issue arises. At different times, new difficulties crop up. The world also changes. The conditions of the world prevailing thousands of years ago were different than the present times and will radically change in years to come. There have always been great transformation in the world. It is on account of this that Imam of the time is always present to guide you according to the changed times. His commands you to act in a way that suits the current times. My farmans in years to come will be quite different from the present ones. The whole world will change. Therefore, you should obey the farmans of the Imam of the time. As the time changes, so do the farmans change. This was in 1908, 18 years ago. You see, Mullah have guided and emphasized so much on the Imam of the time, the need of the current Imam, so he may guide according to the time. According to the time. And Mullah says, even myself may have a different Farmin in the years ahead. One Farman comes to my mind, and I have given this example many times before. Shah Sultan Muhammad Shah in his times would say, if a boy is of age 18 and a girl is of age 14 and 16, 14 to 16, they should get married. And then Imam in 49th Jamat says, even if you are 35-year-old, and if you are not standing on your own 2 feet, meaning if you are not established, do not get married. That's a huge difference. This is how Imam guides according to the time and the place. Next Farman continues of Sultan Muhammad Shah, and I have few of the small Faramin liners here. At Ghadir Khum, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, I am leaving behind me 2 things which will continue till the day of judgment and will remain together till Hawz Kausar. The Prophet continued, what are those 2 things? They are my progeny, the Imams, and the Quran. Both these things will continue till the day of judgment and will remain together till Hawz Kausar, 1893. The world is such that the existence of the living Imam must be there, 1937. In every time, Imam has something new to reveal, 1899. You should obey the Farmans of the Imam of the time. I am your Hazar Imam, 1900. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. This Faramin clearly shows the importance of the understanding of the Faramin, and in the Faramin, Imam of the time. You should obey the Farmans of the Imam of the time. You see how these 2 subjects goes together. Now we are coming to the Farman of Shah Karim al-Hussaini, Imam of the time, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Very first Farman. Very first Farman. And do not forget the very first Farman of Sultan Muhammad Shah. And we just read the very first Farman of Shah Rahim, Hazar Imam Salawatullah alayhi. What did Sultan Muhammad Shah say in his first Farman? A Jamato, do not think of me as little. I am the Noor of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa and Mola Ali. My grandmother is Bibi Fatima Khatun Jannat. I may look small, but my honor, Buzrugi, is high. Very first farman of the Imam are very important farman. In that farman, sometime Imam gives us a view into the future. What is about to come? A great view. Shah Rahim did the same thing. Shah Karim done the same thing, and Shah Sultan Muhammad Shah has done the same thing. If we had the farman, the very first farman of Ali Shah and Hassan Ali Shah Mabab, I'm sure we would find a really great picture of the future, the footstep that they would lead us on. Shah Karim in his very first farman in Geneva, Switzerland on July 13, 1957. My beloved spiritual children, my grandfather dedicated his life to the Imamat and Islam, both of which for him always came first and above all other considerations. Maulana Hazrat Imam then repeated the following passage from the will of Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah Salawatullah Alayhi. Quote, ever since the time of my first ancestor Ali, the first Imam, that is to say, over a period of 1300 years, it has always been the tradition of our family that each Imam chooses his successor at his absolute and unfettered discretion from amongst any of his descendants, whether they are sons or remoter male issue. And in these circumstances, and in the view of the fundamentally altered conditions in the world in very recent years due to the great changes which have taken places, including the discoveries of the atomic science. I am convinced that it is the best interest of the Shia Muslim Ismailian community that I should be succeeded by a young man who has been brought up and developed during recent years and in the midst of the new age, and who brings a new outlook on life to his office as Imam, unquote. Then Imam continues, Farman, in the last month that I have spent with my grandfather, and in our many other times together, I have been privileged to work with him, and his guidance and wisdom will be of a great help to me. My aim in the future will be to continue the vast work of my grandfather. As we were just talking about it, Imam gives us a roadmap in his very first farman. To do all in my power for the welfare and the betterment of our community and its economic and financial institution. Maternity homes, boys and girls schools, hospitals, trusts, clubs, and European and American scholarships. I will do everything possible for your worldly and spiritual upliftment. As you were in my beloved grandfather's heart and thoughts, you will be in mine. So Imam Shah Karim clearly quoting the Farman or the will of the Sultan Muhammad Shah, and then saying, I will follow on his footsteps and I will do everything possible for the Jamat's worldly and spiritual upliftment, as my grandfather did during his lifetime, as there was nothing more important to him than the Jamat during his lifetime. One paragraph from the second Farman, the very first Didar after taking over the Imamat in 1957. So this was July 26th, in about a week after the previous Farman. Previous Farman in the Geneva was sent to the Jamaat all over the world. And then this was the first Didar in London, where Mala Bapa gave this Farman. My dear spiritual children, this is a sad and very happy occasion for me. I see you for the first time since my beloved grandfather departed this world physically. You have lost the finest Imam we have had, and I have lost a grandfather who was more devoted than any grandfather a man has ever had. You will see the same line of Farman with Shah Rahim regarding Shah Karim. I hope you do not think that because he is not physically with us, that he won't watch over you. I hope you do not think that because he, the previous Imam, is not physically with us, that he won't watch over you. Remember, the Noor is one. Imam never leaves this world. In my time, I will do everything in my capacity to be worthy of and to see the community lives very well, and that the welfare of the community I will see is set on the lines my grandfather has set for you. Shah Rahim said the same thing just in above Farman, that my father have set those lines and we will move forward on those lines. I will see is set on the lines my grandfather have set for you. At the same time, this is the most happy occasion for me. I see you as an Imam for the first time, and I give you my best paternal, maternal blessings. Khana Vadan, Dua Ashish, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. This Faramin gives us a great view into the Farman and the understanding of the Farman and the importance of the Farman and the necessity of the Imam of the time. Again and again, that part is emphasized, that necessity of the Imam of the time and the Farmans of the Imam of the time. We are so fortunate that Shah Rahim not only giving Faramin, I mean, we already have 20, 30 Faramins within 18 months. Not only he has given those 18, 20, 30 Faramin, he had made sure the Jamaat have received the copies of this Faramin And he's emphasizing on us and the leadership to make sure that these Farmans are read regularly and has been reflect on it. Not just read, as yesterday all of us heard and listened to, and last Chandrat on Tuesday we heard the Farman of the German just last week on July 5th. When in our lifetime we have received the Farman within days of the Farman delivered. Not only the Farman were read, the Farmans are available to the Jamat, so we may reflect on it. Because when you listen to the Farman in the Jamat Khana one time, I was fortunate to go to the Jamat Khana where the young man who read the Farman, he knew the language, he knew how to read Farman. He was reading it nicely, calmly, slowly, pausing where pause needed, and emphasizing where the words needed emphasized. But sometimes we are not that lucky, and you may have somebody whose first language is not English, like this Garib and Nachis. And when they read those Farman, they would not know where to pause and where to emphasize. And then the Farman, you can hear, but understanding of that, the direct connection with the Farman is not there. So it is important for you, and it is your responsibility, put on your shoulder by the Imam-of-the-Time, to read this Farman and reflect on them. That is the Amr of the Imam to the Jamat. It is your responsibility to read this Farman. So let's come to these two Farman, very important Farman regarding the Imam-of-the-Time. And you can see we have picked and chosen the Farmans which are relevant to our subject of the day. This was in Kabul, Afghanistan, 2002 by Shah Karim al-Hussaini. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. My beloved spiritual children, in our tariqah in Islam, there is the Imam of the Time. The Imam of the Time has the authority historically to interpret the faith. He has the responsibility to guide the Jamaat in its everyday life, wherever the Jamaat is living in this world. The Imam of the Time guides his Jamaat in keeping with the times in which the Jamaat is living. Afghanistan has lived through many years of conflict, but nonetheless, the Imam of the Time has watched the Jamaat of Afghanistan, has prayed for the Jamaat of Afghanistan, has suffered in the pain of the Jamaat of the Afghanistan. Imam has suffered in the pain of the Jamaat of Afghanistan. Inshallah, the years ahead will see the birth of a new Afghanistan, an Afghanistan that will live in peace, where people will have an opportunity to improve their quality of life, where all communities and leaders will work together in order to build a united, happy, and strong Afghanistan. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala. Did you count how many times Imam mention Imam of the time in one single paragraph? The Jamaat was kind of taken by surprise that Shah Rahim have mentioned that Imam of the time have the authority over the Jamati matters, over the religious matter. You know why we were surprised? Because we had not read the previous Faramin. Every Imam have the authority as the Imam of the time. When we take the bayah of the Imam of the time, we, by giving the bayah, give that authority, understand that authority, accept that authority of the Imam of the time over the tariqah matter, over the religious matter. Matter of fact, over our life and our soul here and hereafter, he has the authority. We have submitted ourselves to him. But last few weeks, we noticed every time we talked about this Farman, the Imam has the authority over the tariqah matter, seemed like Jamat was surprised. It's like, oh, we did not know. We thought any Tom, Dick, and Harry can have authority over the tariqah matter. No, no one has authority over tariqah matter. It is only the Imam of the time that have the authority over the tariqah matter, over the religious. Imam is the one who guides. It is the Imam of the time that guides us according to the time and the place. Now, there can be that one Farman in one place may be different than the other places. Like Farman in Pakistan versus Farman in Texas. Because two different environment, two different issues, two different countries and laws, two different Jamaat. So Faramin will be absolutely different. There may be paragraph or two which are particularly for the Jamaat. And then there would be Faraman, rest of the Farman, which will apply to every single murid of the Imam of the time living on this earth, regardless of where they're living. In Moscow, Russia, in 1995, Imam Shah Karim says, on this occasion, I will give you a Farman which will touch on important aspect of our faith, so that at this first mulaqat with the Imam of the time, you should be able to take with you and to share with your families and your Jamaat. I'm going to stop here for a second. Last week, someone asked, can we take this Farman and share with our family? What did Hazrat Imam says, Shah Rahim? Read this Farman and reflect. Of course, you will take this Farman and give to your family and read with them, sit with them, discuss with them, reflect on them. Here, Imam says that I will give you a Farman which will touch on important aspect of our faith, so that at this first mulaqat with the Imam of the time, you and to share with your families and your Jamaats the principle of practice of the faith. You see, understanding the Farman is very important. Listening to Farman is important, but understanding of the Farman is more important. Someone have taken that one paragraph that it is only Imam who guides the Jamat and the Tariqah board and the council. I agree 101% with that Farman. But remember, in the very Farman, Imam have said that read and reflect on this Farman. And how do you do that? A council member, a Tariqah board member, Mukhi Kamriya cannot come and sit with you every day to read this Farman and reflect on this Farman. When it comes to the Tariqah matter, we have nothing to say. We cannot argue, nor we cannot be unhappy with the changes which has come to the Jamaat Khanas in the Tariqah matter, and which more changes are about to come, because that is the authority of the Imam of the time. It is only Imam decides, and he authorized to make those changes. When it comes to the Tariqah, when it comes to Jamati matters, Imam is the only one who has the authority. And when those changes comes, accept them as the Farman of the Imam of the time. Do not argue. Do not be unhappy about it. Because Imam knows and he guides according to the time. And if that was not the case, why would we have Imam of the time? If we wanted to live in the past, what Sultan Muhammad Shah did, what Hazrat Imam Shah Karim did, then why do we need Imam of the time? We need Imam of the time, and we have given him the bayah, we have accepted him as the Imam of the time, and he has the authority. And when he makes the changes, we have nothing to say. So look at this Farman once again. Share with your families and your Jamaat the principles of the practice of the faith. What you should share with your families and Jamaat? The principles of the practice of the faith. This is exactly what we are doing here together. And when you will go and talk to your family today, you may reflect on this Farman. And according to Farman of the Imam-of-the-Time, share with them. So they also may understand. And you have this Farman imprinted, so you can share and no one have anything to argue. Of living within the ethics of the faith at the end of the 20th century, and so that, inshallah, these principles will become or continue to be the part of your everyday lives. First, let me remind you that for all murids of the Imam, whether they are from Central Asia, from India, from Pakistan, from Western world, the fundamental principle is the recognition of Imam of the time. It is he who interprets the faith. It is he who guides the Jamaat in the interpretation of its faith at any time during his lifetime. It is he who supports the Jamaat in various parts of the world to seek with the Jamaat and others. to improve the quality of life of murid wherever they may be. You see the similarity between this Farman and the Farman of Shah, Rahim, recent Farmans. Remember, Noor is one. There are core principles of our tariqah on which Imam guides, every Imam guides. And let me today remind you also of some of the principles of interpretation which Hazrat Ali brought to our interpretation of Islam. One of the essential principles that he brought was that Islam is not a faith only of rote. Some of our brothers and sisters have taken this Faramin and just memorized it. They know every single Farman. But when it comes to understanding of the Farman, they are missing it. Islam is not a faith of rote. We do not mimic and copy. We understand. We use our intellect. We use the logic. So what does Imam say? It is the faith of the intellect. It is the faith of individual search. It is the faith of individual search. It is the faith of commitment to others in society. It is this intellectual search. Hazrat Ali did not divide faith and intellect. I know sometimes we hear and we think wrongly that you do not need to think, don't use your logic, don't use your intellect, do what Tariqah board and council tells you to do. This is not it. That's not our Tariqah. Imam will never ever put you in that position where you cannot use your logic and your intellect. If you would look at Shah Rahim's Farman, Shah Karim's Farman, Shah Sultan Muhammad Shah's Farman, and see how Imams have always, all the way back to Maula Ali, emphasized on using the intellect and how the intellect is a gift of Allah to the humanity, and especially when this intellect is lighted by the nur of the Imam of the time, then that is the big gift to the murids of the Imam of the time. That not only Allah has given you intellect, but it's been lighted by the nur of the Imam of the time. So personal search, individual search, commitment to others. This is the intellectual search. Hazrat Ali did not divide faith and intellect. Hazrat Ali said that intellect is another facet of faith, and it is upon us, upon you, to see, to use your intellect within the ethic of our faith in whatever time and whatever place you live. Therefore, you have no division between intellect and faith. The use of intellect is the proper behavior in society at any given time. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. I know I have gone over my time, so I will stop here.